Welcome to the video. I'm your host, Grits and Gravy. So this is going to be a brand new segment on my YouTube channel. I'm just going to kind of freestyle it, and it's just going to develop into whatever it's going to be. So honestly, sometimes it's kind of hard to sit back and just watch history repeat itself and not share an opinion or kind of give people a heads up or, things of that nature. So this is what this is going to be about, and I don't know the frequency of how many times I'll do it, if it's going to be a once a week, once a month type of thing, but pretty much when it gets to the boiling point of enough topics, then I feel like that's when I should do it. My channel, I never intended it to be just a mechanism where I just pump out videos just for the sake of trying to acquire numbers and things like that. Really, my channel, I want to help people create the best version of whatever they're trying to create musically. So that's pretty much how I approach it. I've been doing more videos lately, but once again, that's because I feel like it's needed, and just trying to share my workflow, my process. Let's start with the first topic, and that is my background story, I guess you could say, as far as music. So as far back as I can remember, it was probably 1997, and that's when I first started just experimenting with music and things of that nature. I think the first money that I made from doing any type of music is basically what we used to do is we used to like freestyle, and it was like karaoke style, where like you would put a cassette into like they had like a dual cassette player where like one side records and the other side plays. And what you do is you put a blank tape on one side, hit record, you put a tape on the other side and hit play. So then what you would do is you would just record your freestyle. And what would happen is cassettes were getting phased out though. So me, I guess, with not the hustler mentality, but like I guess the way I was thinking, I was like, okay, I'm going to take these cassettes and I'm going to convert them to CD. And it's funny because like now CD is phased out. But what I did back when I was in high school is people would bring me their cassette. I'd be like, okay, cool, give me $20. I'm going to take your cassette. I recorded it into my computer and burned the CD. And I would separate the tracks, because you got to remember, like cassettes, there was no tracks. You had to fast forward all the way through, just like VHSs. There was no, there's no division in the recording. It's like you have to, find the point of the song or whatever. So what I did was I put it in the computer, burned it to a CD, and brought it back to school. I was like, yo, you got your money? Boom, boom. And that's how I started making money with music. Then I remember dabbling in a lot of free software and creating beats, and then rapping to them. And we started putting out mixtapes like in my city or whatever. And then it got to the point where people were like, yo, like, do you have any beats for sale? Like, what's going on? Do you do studio time? Yada yada. So this is the program that I started making music in, and it's My Plug Tracker. It's like an open source program. It actually does like video game type music really well, but that's what I started making music in. Let me see if I can get a screenshot. I guess it was considered linear based, but it scrolled from like top to bottom. So like you would literally put come on, I just need a picture. Okay, this is a good picture. So you would literally put your notes in here. So basically it's like a G5 or whatever, and it's a grid, and then you set your tempo, whatever, and then there was a samples tab. You could load up like waves or whatever. So you pick your sound, you pick a spot on the grid, so like you can make each channel a different sound or whatever. And so what I started doing is like I started dabbling and creating beats. Then I ended up making some that were good enough, I guess, to sell. And they were simple beats. And I actually I still have a lot of them. But I'm not going to just play a bunch of my old stuff just to play it. So once again, like everything on my channel, I do for a specific reason. So I just wanted to show you that's how I got started with music. So then you fast forward to like 2007, I started using FL Studio, and my story with FL Studio is kind of the same pretty much as everybody else's. Like, you know, you start making certain types of beats and you either rock with it, you know, to the death, or like you kind of evolve. And I evolved into doing different things, producing for different types of artists, and just honestly, I felt like it was too clustered and not organized for my workflow personally. So then I started doing a lot of mixing and mastering, and I bought Pro Tools. I want to say this was like 2014. Now, by the time I bought Pro Tools, I started really investing heavily just in my setup and just across the board, like website, visuals, maybe not so much visuals, but I would still put money into it, just like how I'm doing this video now, to where it's presentable, you know. And I plan on doing more, but I just started investing heavily once I bought Pro Tools. I was like, okay, not saying that it's the most professional DAW or any stupid stuff like that, because I think a lot of that stuff is just, it's overblown. Like whatever you're using is probably good enough. It's just a matter of learning it. And that's why I do the type of videos that I do, because it's all about learning what you invested in. Like, you don't want to buy something and just let it collect dust. By 2017, a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken, I bought the Micro, and this would be the version 2 of the Micro or whatever. So I bought that, and I instantly fell in love with the way you can create with it. And here's the thing, and this is going to get into some of the points that I'm going to touch on later in this video, but a lot of people who use Machine and who don't use Machine complain about arrangement. They complain about it's not a DAW. They complain about, you know, they have issues with the way it operates. And the thing is that before I bought Machine personally, I watched a ton of videos, and I was like, okay, I want to pull the trigger, but how do I envision this fitting into what I do right now? Like, can this replace FL Studio? Now, remember, I said I bought Pro Tools back in 2014. So even though I have a couple videos on my channel from like 3-4 years ago about mixing in FL Studio, I never just fully mixed and mastered in FL Studio. I would always bounce it out, throw it into Pro Tools. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a Machine. I'm going to bounce it out. I'm going to throw it into Pro Tools. And I only do that when it's a project that's going to be released, or if it's for an artist or something like that. Like a lot of these videos on my channel, they're just Machine projects, and I do the arrangement and everything, but I don't bounce it out because it's not going to be released just yet. So they're just, you know, they're still in Machine form, I guess you could say. So me personally, I have no desire to mix and master in Machine. Now, here's the thing. A part of me feels like, not that that's misleading, but this is why I'm doing this video, because I need to address what I do on my channel, because there's things that are happening that will affect the content on my channel. So I feel like, not necessarily it's a responsibility, but I feel like a lot of my subscribers lately, you know, they like what I do in Machine. So that pretty much wraps up kind of my background in music, like my story. So now we're going to get into the hot topic lately, which is what is going on with native instruments. So first off, Native Instruments does not sponsor anything on my channel. Obviously my channel's not big enough, but it's, it's heavily used with everything that I do. I guess it's kind of weird because it's the centerpiece of what I do, but it can be replaced really easily. And I'll talk about different DAWs just briefly later on, but it can be replaced very easily because everything that I do is going to end up somewhere else anyway in stem form. So it's going to be bounced and thrown into Pro Tools, or if I'm working with somebody and they got Studio One, just whatever, it doesn't matter. It's not going to begin and end in Machine. So I mean, it doesn't matter. Now, it's frustrating when I see people talk about Machine like they want it to be the centerpiece. They want it to be, the end all be all when it comes to their workflow. So I want to address that issue and personally give my opinion and say that I feel like that's a bad move and that's a bad decision. Here's the reason why. I guess the best way to explain this is, metaphorically speaking, Pro Tools is literally a tool that I use. Machine is a tool, and I separate their duties. Okay, so in the event that they start tripping or they start doing things that can hinder what personally I'm trying to achieve, they get replaced. Now, a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to hear that, and they invested money, and I understand all of that. It's going to be hard to part with something that you spent $500, $1,000 on, but that's just the nature of doing music. For most people, I understand like it's a super expensive hobby, or it's a super expensive business venture that you're getting into, but the reality is that it's forever evolving, and you have to approach it, in my opinion, you have to approach it that way to keep it moving, to keep making your money, to keep making your music. You have to kind of separate it, and it's a little more work in my opinion, but I feel like that's the best way to do it. I want to get into some DAWs and talk about just like how I feel about them or whatever, but I'll do that a little bit later. So before I get into the next topic, which is going to be specifically more about Native Instruments and what's going on with the company and just the direction that they're going in, I want to give a shout out to MG The Future and Craftmaster Productions. If you haven't watched their podcast, This Week in Hip Hop, I highly recommend you check it out. Check out past episodes. They do deep dives on different topics. So I highly recommend downloading their royalty-free loops. They're really high quality. And this past Sunday, which now was a couple days ago, they actually played my submission. And I actually want to play part of it real quick because the stream kind of messed up or whatever. Let's take a listen to that real quick because I thought it was funny.
Boom, pop, el starto, streamo. Boom, boom, pop. Pop, el sarto, boom, pop, el sarto, streamo. El sarto, streamo, right?
That sounds vaguely like Cruel Summer. And it's gonna be a cruel summer. So we close this one out.
Someone did a bounce beat with Spicy Sundays.
Freak out.
How you do a bounce beat with Spicy Sundays?
So MG The Future was like, how you do a bounce beat with Spicy Sunday, but that's going to get into a topic later that I'm going to talk about, which is, just doing different types of music. I kind of feel like it's necessary right now to push the envelope because like everything sounds the same, like, and it's, like it doesn't motivate you to create. And that's why I was saying, like, I'm not going to post stuff just to post stuff. Like, if I'm not motivated to knock out some beats, you're not going to see me post anything. If I don't have any new tips and tricks with Machine or anything else, then it's like I'm not just going to be posting stuff. But So I appreciate them, picking my beat or whatever, and playing it. The stream messed up, but I'm gonna upload me actually making that beat, and then you can hear it in its entirety. So then we're gonna get into the native instruments talk. You guys, this is not good. This is not good at all. I knew there was problems when Massive X was like missing features or files or something. Like, it was really weird. Like, you got to think about like when has Native Instruments released something that wasn't complete? And I'm not even trying to be funny, like, no pun intended. Like, when have they released a unfinished product? And I was looking and I was like, nah, like, this can't be, something's not right, you know? And then during Spicy Sunday podcast, then we hear that like 200 employees have been laid off. And then it's like, then you're like, did the people who got laid off, did they like take their work with them? Like, it's really weird and it's not good. And I'm going to tell you what I think is about to happen, because I've seen it happen before. And I need to play another excerpt from MG and CMP's podcast, because I have some thoughts. I'm curious to know what you guys think. I want to chop it up, so I'm not going to take anything out of context, but I like to keep the video moving. So after I play this, I'm going to share my thoughts.
So here's the deal, right? Reddit is our new WikiLeaks since
Yes.
Julian Assange is out. You can if you fuck with Reddit, like if you're in the video game community, you can always find information about like who's getting fired in the office, because what happens is a lot of people go on to Reddit and they leak a lot of practices that are going on inside of the offices. So what's happening is a couple things, right? So there's a company called Glassdoor. It's a website called Glassdoor, and what it does is it rates corporations, how happy people are working there, what the interview process was like. It's how you can vet places you want to work. So recently, Native Instruments has like it's like 44% a bad place to work, 56% a good place to work. They've got like a 2-star review on there. People are going on, and these are former employees. People are going on Native Instruments on Glassdoor and trashing it, basically telling people not to work there.
Yeah.
The reason why is because a lot of people are getting laid off. Yeah, this is all alleged. This is not news. This is 100% pure, unadulterated conspiracy theory. So that we're clear. Everything I said before, that's all verifiable and true. Everything I'm getting ready to tell you right now is shit that I found on Reddit. The thing is they were saying that basically Native Instruments layoffs. If you go on the old Googles and you type in Native Instruments layoffs, you'll find the
I'm just mad they laid off the beta team.
Yeah.
They promised us time stretch.
Yo. But the major rumor that is occurring right now, you'll find an article that will link you to the Glassdoor reviews, and then it'll also link you to the Reddit post where somebody does a financial analysis of Native Instruments, also giving you the warning that this is speculative, but they're sourcing this information from Glassdoor.com. So this is these are the former employees, okay, going on to Glassdoor, reviewing the company. I hope you guys understand like what that means, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, here we go. So yeah, all right. So we got some people in the chat that know what Glassdoor is.
Yeah.
John Smith just says he needs time stretch. That's how selfish are you, John? People are losing jobs out
What do
here,
you need time
right?
stretch for? People don't use loops in production. Of course they don't sell sample packs full of loops.
So here's the deal. The first thing from the reviews, they consolidated it real quick, right? So they said all innovative projects have been canceled. The management is a complete mess. Roadmap and OKRs change on a weekly basis. So these are former employees. Okay, these are former employees. The company is on the path to abrupt shrinkage, 600 plus employees in 2018 to less than 400 employees in 2019. So you're talking about in a year, more than 200 people have been laid off.
Yikes.
Somebody else wrote constant cancellation of products, with some being canceled right before the release, with losses measured in millions of euros, which is which is then compensated by cutting down the costs on personnel by means of mass layoffs. So
we almost had time stretch.
Yeah, so we almost had time stretch, but instead 200 people got fired. Up to 40% of my time was spent in meetings. Another person wrote massive technical debt. You touch one thing and 10 other things break. Somebody else wrote no clear product roadmaps. I mean, they could just write time stretch on the whiteboard. You know what I mean? And the last and most ominous one from the inside is my prediction is that in a small amount of years' time, the company will collapse. So
Well, wow.
Here's what happened. You dumbasses kept begging them and begging them and begging them for a standalone machine. And you could have just bought an NPC live. And they tried to give it to you. And they muffed it. They muffed it so bad that you didn't get it complete this year. And nobody noticed that there wasn't a summer sale. Nobody noticed that there's not a complete 13. They pushed Massive back. And now 200 people lost their jobs because you want to make fucking beats on a subway.
Okay. Okay, so once again, if you haven't seen their podcast yet, go check it out. I'll put a link in the description. I have some thoughts. Some of them don't mean much, not just because they're my opinions, but just they don't mean much. I just wanted to point some things out. But it's important that I kind of talk about it because I've seen it before. Like, I remember MySpace, like the rise and fall of MySpace. And like literally like what Facebook is going through is like there's like the rise, then there's like the plateau, and then there's the downward spiral. Facebook is on the downward spiral. Like, don't make any mistake about it. And I'm sitting here watching it and it's like, man, I've seen this before. I remember mp3.com. Like, funny story about mp3.com. I don't know what happened to it. But I was like 15 years old with money sitting in mp3.com that like you had to hit a certain threshold to pay out. I think it was like $100, but I reached like $80 or something just from streams. Like, cause this was all new. Like, streams was new. Like, they were, in my opinion, and as far as I can remember, they were like the first for independent artists, for independent artists to make some money from streaming was mp3.com. And I wasn't even old enough to have a bank account and to cash out, but I was generating enough money to be paid. And if you want to know what I think happened, and I never really looked that deep into it, but major labels were like, shut it down. And whatever happened to the company and all the money that people were making is just disappeared overnight. So like I've seen this happen before. Now with Native Instruments, long story short, and this is I have no insider information or anything like that. I don't know anybody that works there. They don't send me anything for free. I have no ties or anything like that. No emotions involved. They're gonna sell the company. That's just what I think is gonna happen. You don't fire you don't fire that many people for nothing. Like, it's not insignificant. Like, they're not downsizing just to downsize. Like, there's a really bad reason why, and I feel like it's just in preparation to sell. Yeah, so I mean, now what CMP said was that part of the reason for their failures is because we begged them for a standalone device and they tried to oblige and they failed. But I feel like it has nothing to do with what was asked for is the reason why it failed. I feel like they failed because, not that they're a failure in a sense, but just the way the company was ran. Like, it didn't matter what they were about to release, it wasn't going to work. And another red flag to me was so like, okay, I talked about Massive X, but the timing of everything, I was like, this is not good, because Massive X wasn't finished, and it was like nobody was gonna buy it unless financially it made more sense. So then they were like, hey, we're gonna have a sale, which I'm not gonna lie, I upgraded to complete 12. Like, I had 11, I upgraded to 12, but it wasn't for Massive X. I was like, okay, cool. If Massive X turns into just this awesome VST, I'll just have that on deck too, and I can make videos about that. I haven't made not one video about Massive X, and there's a very good reason for that, which that's what we're talking about right now. Like, it's just not ready. So like, why make a video just to make one? But yeah, man, like, and once again, my whole point, or one of my big points of doing this talk right now, is that me personally, like, machine can be replaced, and I can get busy in almost any DAW, any program, because it's not the centerpiece. And I encourage that line of thinking. The last thing I want to touch on is, it doesn't really matter, but there wasn't going to be a complete 13. Like, for whatever reason, companies are scared of the number 13. You saw what FL Studio did and jumped to 20. They all do it. Like, it was never going to be complete 13, in my opinion. If and when it drops, it's going to be like complete X or something like that, something predictable like that. Very interesting. So you might be wondering, though, if you're heavily invested in the Native Instruments ecosystem, like, what do you do now? And my advice is to use the same approach that I use, which is make it a part of your workflow. Don't make it the end part, like where you're trying to mix and master in it. Use it for what it's good for. Like, it's, in my opinion, it's the most powerful way to create a loop. And if you haven't seen any of my videos on how to arrange, I'll leave the link in the corner up here. Go check that out, because that's one of the hangups, is people don't really know what to do with the awesome loops that you're creating with machine. And I talk about all that. Another thing that bothers me is, like, it's like, yo, like I don't work there, but I figured out how to be productive in machine. And some other people who use machine, they figured out how to be productive. But it's like, you have people who you're paying, and all their job is to show us how to use machine, and they're not even showing us, like, how am I figuring out how to do things better than the people that work there? That to me was another thing where I was like, yo, this is messed up. Like, because me personally, like, I have no problem with the way I use machine, but at the same time, I'm probably not going to use it forever. Like, my process evolves, you know, like your process should evolve. You know, that's how you get better. You need bigger and better challenges. You make more money, you invest it, and it just grows. Like, you outgrow things. Like, that's what happened to me when I was using FL Studio. Like, I just outgrew it. Like, whatever. Like, if you use FL and you swear by it, then that's what's up. But me personally, like, it wasn't challenging me. It's almost like like it's anything in life. It's like you use it and then you're like, this isn't fun anymore. Like, music to me should be, it's twofold. Like, it's it's fun, and it needs to challenge. It needs to be fun, and it has to challenge you, or it's like, what are we doing? Like, moving on. Let me see, what are we gonna talk about? Oh, so dolls that I flirt with. What I mean by flirt with is I watch a lot of videos. I watch a lot of YouTube tutorials, and I watch a lot of stuff on dolls that I don't use and might never use. But I do that because I just like to learn, and I like to see if I can do what somebody did. Say, for example, in Reason, I'm like, hey, can I do that in FL? Can I do that in Machine? Like, most of the time the answer is yes. You just have to kind of think from the perspective of, like, how does Machine work, and what did that person do, and how can I apply that to the way Machine works? Because you can't get around the limitations of Machine. All you can do is use what it gives you and try to mimic what somebody else did. So I watch a lot of Reason tutorials and stuff like that, and Studio One. Like, I watch a lot of also Harrison Mix Bus and stuff like that. I also want to point out right now that my next move is probably gonna be Studio One. I mean, that's just the way things are headed. Like Ableton looks cool. Like, I never thought it was a bad thing to use more than one DAW, but I always felt like using more than one DAW to do the same thing can slow you down. Like, I feel like you gotta pick. Like, so there's different processes. Like, you got your beat making, your mixing, and your mastering. If you're using more than 3 DAWs, in my opinion, then there's something broken in your process. Like, maybe not, but I would speculate that there's something broken. But you can get away with 2, you can get away with 1. Like, I see a lot of people, like, they're strictly in Ableton. I see a couple people making everything in Pro Tools. Me personally, I would probably pull my hair out. Like, I can't do it. Like, I know how to, and once again, one of the main reasons is, like, that wouldn't be fun to me personally, to set up all this routing in Pro Tools. Even if I made a template, set up all this routing and have to deal with the way you have to work in Pro Tools, because once again, each DAW has its limitations. So I mean, just like, it's probably going to be Studio One. I can't see myself going back to FL Studio. Like, I just kind of feel like been there, done that type of situation. I mean, I really got nothing else to say about that. We'll just have to see how everything evolves. I don't see myself buying an MPC Live, even though, like, I watch a ton of MPC Live videos and they look cool, and I try to see how people are working in it, and just try to apply whatever I can to what I'm doing. But, like, I'm so deep into Machine, and just like, if I can bang out a Machine and another DAW, I'll probably just do that. But then it's like, I don't have any desire to load Machine as a VST and another DAW, so it's just kind of like, honestly, I don't even know. But things are not looking good for Native Instruments, and it's just funny how all of these topics tie in together, and that's just my opinion on everything right now. Last topic I want to talk about is trap music dead? No, I don't think it's dead. I can tell when something's dying though. Like it's dying out. And by dying out, I mean it's not. Oh, perfect example again. Once again, we have the rise, the plateau, and the fall. And trap is on the fall. Like it's dying. Like trap is, and it's funny, like trap music at its height was I don't want to say that. Like trap music, like how I remember it, was like Jeezy and T.I. and like DJ Toomp and like Shawty Red and like Zaytoven. Like you had, that was like the rise, and then it just kind of, it got stagnant. It got stagnant when everything started sounding the same, and then I was like, oh boy, like here we go again with, that's the plateau. Like it's stalling out. And when that happens, I'm gonna tell you, part of the reason why that happens is because the money starts to dry up. And when the money dries up, you got to think about it like a company. Imagine if trap was a company, right? When the money dries up in the development department, what happens? No innovation. Okay, so that's your sign that the money dried up. Because like I remember when, like I've seen, like I've said it before, like I've seen a lot of this happen before, and I remember like the big budgets and like the $50,000 here, $50,000 there. Like I remember the product was better. It leads to innovation. It leads to more ideas, collaborations, so on and so forth. When you hit that plateau, when everything just flatlines, that means money is drying up. And now it's falling. Now it's not good. Now here's the thing though. So what have we been talking about? Okay, we've been talking about native instruments falling. Now I'm talking about trap falling. Here's the thing. Like this stuff is still around. Like it's still, like there's still trap music. Like I don't want to act like you're going to wake up tomorrow and there's going to be no trap or something like that. Like just think about what I'm saying. Like with all of these things kind of on their way out, like you have to define your lane. You have to pick your lane and just, full speed ahead. That's your opportunity. So like if you watch some of my other videos, you might be like, but you do trap beats all the time. Like what are you like? So are you dead? Like my point is that yes, I make trap beats. I put a lot of thumbnails of like trap rappers on them and things like that. But at the same time, in my videos, if you just really pay attention to when I make beats, I'm experimenting all the time with different types of sounds. Like my quote unquote trap beats don't sound like anything else. Like that's just my opinion. Like, and I do that on purpose. Like I feel like I have my own type of style. Like it doesn't matter what type of beat I'm making, almost to the point where you can be like, that sounds like something Grits and Gravy did, or like, like I have different elements that on purpose I put into my beats so that it's me. And I kind of grew up listening to prolific producers who did the same thing, where it's like my favorite producer is Timbaland, and like you can hear a Timbaland beat and he doesn't have to say anything, but it's Timbaland. So it's like I highly recommend that approach as well. Is like kind of find your pocket, so to speak, and like put your own sauce on it, whatever you want to call it, but make it to the point where it doesn't matter what you're doing or what you're producing, because if and when, I'll just say it that way, if and when trap music dies and you're a trap producer, you're just not stuck in limbo and you don't know what your next move is. Like, you should already be like, oh, okay, that's what they're doing. Okay, let me load that up. If, oh, they're working with a new set of tempos, like that's the new wave, like those tempos right there. Okay, let me load those up in Machine or whatever I'm using it, and let me get busy real quick. And it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. Like, I can do that too. Like, you have to have that mentality. Like, I can do that too. But meanwhile, I'm developing my own style. So I actually plan on doing a couple videos talking about that, like how to develop your own style, because it took me years to just be comfortable, I guess, in my own producer skin or whatever, and be like, it doesn't matter, like I can just produce whatever. But I want to do a video just talking about like some different shortcuts you can take to just develop your own style, because I think it's important. Like, I'm not saying like create something weird like that only you do, because if you do that, then you're going to be the only one that wants to listen to it. But I'm more so talking about like just different elements that you use, different types of sounds. Like, you can take what's popular. Like, I remember when brass horns, like every beat had brass horns in it. So like, if that was what we're doing right now, you could take those brass horns and just kind of tweak them a little bit, like put some distortion on them or something like that. And then it's like, oh, nobody else is doing that. That must be that guy, like whatever your producer name is. Like, oh, that's him, because he's the only one that does brass horns like that. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's, you know, it's something completely different at that point. But I think this is a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but that's cool, because I'm just going to speak my mind. That's pretty much it. That's where I'm going to leave this. Once again, my name is Grits and Gravy. New segment. We're going to see where this thing goes. Please leave comments down below. I'm very curious to know what you think personally about any of these topics that I covered today. And I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks again for watching. Talk to you later.